Hello there, time now for Back Pages tonight here on Sky Sports News, bringing you a first look at the sports stories in the morning's newspapers. Joining us are the Daily Mail's football editor Ian Ladyman and ESPN senior writer Mark Ogden. Welcome, gents. Let's quickly run you through the back pages before we chat. We'll start with the Express, who lead with the latest England men's cricket revelation. I lied to protect my mates. Brook admits regret for initially insisting he was alone in nightclub row. They also carry the quotes from Manchester United head coach Michael Carrick. On the right-hand side there, you can see no rush for Bruno talks, he says. The Eye splash with their interview with Liverpool captain Virgil van Dijk, who says, we are not just playing to keep our jobs. And they also have the story top right. Sterling reprieve. We'll discuss where he might be heading after leaving Chelsea. The Mirror has this headline, win at all costs. Arteta on City's big spending. They'll do whatever it takes. And they also carry the big cricket news. Brook, I lied to save pals. The Telegraph sports section with this striking image of Novak Djokovic falling to his knees at the Australian Open after beating Yannick Sinner in an epic to reach the final. The play on words there is brilliant. Jock and awe, they say. Veteran stuns Sinner to set up Alcaraz's final. They also have the England cricket story as well. Brook, I lied about night outs. The Times also lead with the tennis. The greatest just got greater, they say. They also feature the cricket as well. Common theme here tonight, isn't there? Brook, I lied about nightclub to protect teammates. The Guardian splash with the tennis. 10 sets, 2 winners, 1 epic final awaits. We'll also discuss Arteta hinting that youngster Max Dowman is the new Lionel Messi after signing his new deal at Arsenal. And the Mail lead with Harry Brook admitting he lied about 2 of his teammates being involved in that New Zealand bouncer incident. Plus, Ian's piece focuses on the Liverpool boss. Slots on the rocks is the headline top right. Mark, Ian, great to have you with us. Let's start with the Mirror and Mikel Arteta discussing Manchester City's January spending. Now, this is an interesting quote from Mikel Arteta because we've just been talking about this, the 2 of them and their relationship, Mark, and the fact that Arteta saying Pep Guardiola isn't playing mind games. I wonder here if Arteta is trying to heap the pressure on City.
Well, it's certainly suggesting that City are going for it, and they've, like last January, they spent a lot of money. They spent big money this time on Mark Guehi and Antoine Semenyo. I'm not sure if it's mind games. I think you never know Mikel Arteta. I think he plays mind games with himself at times, and he tends to get himself tied up in knots. But, the whole thing about his relationship with Pep and how they won't fall out and they still get on quite well, etc. I just wonder whether that's Arteta trying to tell Pep that your mind games won't work on me. But if that is the case, then he's obviously overthinking it. So I don't know where they're going with this, but for me, I was at the Emirates last week when Arsenal lost to United, and I think Arteta is getting quite tense. He's getting quite wound up by the title race. And, if he's going off topic and talking about Man City and Pep Guardiola when the 4 points clear at the top of the league, Arsenal, you do wonder whether he's being distracted by things that he shouldn't be distracted by. So if you're Arsenal, you just want your manager to concentrate on what's next and getting your team playing well with a bit more confidence, a bit more freedom, rather than worrying about what's happening at Man City, because right now Arsenal have got a lead on Man City. They don't need to worry about Man City. So it's a strange one, but like I say, you can never really second guess what Arteta's thinking or doing.
Yeah, for the second winter window in a row, as Tom Canton writes, Pep Guardiola has spent big to rejuvenate his squad. City have splurged more than £1.9 billion since Guardiola's arrival, and Arteta is not shocked that they have opened the chequebook once again. So, honest thoughts, I suppose, there from Mikel Arteta, Ian. I wonder about their relationship, because Arteta spoke about this in the media as well, saying that the 2 of them can maintain their friendship, their relationship, despite the fact that they're both going for the title. You think that's still possible?
Oh, yeah, I absolutely do think it is possible. I don't think we should portray this relationship as any deeper than it appears. I mean, they work together for a certain amount of time. There's an admiration between the 2. I think that's probably about as far as it goes. What interests me about Arteta and Guardiola is that Arteta has had the common sense to take some of the best bits of the way that Guardiola manages. And what I mean by that is in terms of culture and the type of player and the type of person that he has at Arsenal. If you remember when he took over, the players that he ushered out the door, pretty sharpish players like Aubameyang and Lacazette and Ozil and others didn't last long under Arteta, and even brought a couple of City players in, of course, in Zinchenko and Gabriel Jesus. And I think that was all about bringing some of the best of City to Arsenal. But what Arteta has then had the courage and the self-worth and self-confidence to do is then to introduce his own style to the way they play at Arsenal. We talk a lot about direct football and set pieces and corner kicks, etc. Some people like it, others don't. The fact is, it's been successful, and that is all Arteta, which shows that he's anything but just an imitation of Pep Guardiola. He's very much his own person and his own coach.
Yeah, big match coming up for them, isn't it, at Leeds? 4 points clear at the top of the table, of course, but been out of sorts with no win in 3 Premier League games. Another interesting quote from Mikel Arteta comparing his young teenage star Max Daumann to Lionel Messi without actually saying Messi's name. Now, Arteta, Mark, talks about Max Daumann not being overwhelmed, not being overawed by the situation ahead of him, but to compare him to Lionel Messi as a teenager, goodness me.
Yeah, I mean, he might live to regret that a little bit. I mean, Max Daumann's a fantastic talent. I mean, he really is an amazing young player for his age, and I think he's definitely got a massive future ahead of him. But I suppose the last thing he needs is that kind of that pressure of having for the next 4 or 5 years when he's developing to be compared to Lionel Messi. I mean, that's an impossible comparison. As good as he is, I just think you have to kind of tone it down a bit. And this is what I mean about Mikel Arteta. You can never quite work out what his objective is, what his thought process is, whether he's said this for a reason or whether it's just off the cuff and he said it and he might regret it tomorrow. I mean, there are things about Arteta that you can tell are pre-planned and that he thinks about them and he wants to get the message out. I can't think of any reason why he'd want to get a message out that Max Daumann is potentially better than Lionel Messi, because it's just going away in one way that, Max Daumann is not better than Lionel Messi. Can't be. It's impossible. He's the best player I've ever seen. So it's a strange tactic by Arteta. But you're right, he didn't mention him by name, but he did call Messi the guy at Barcelona. So it's fairly obvious who he was talking about.
Yeah, very much so. OK, let's move on to Liverpool and Arne Slot, and something that you've written about, Ian, on the back page of the Mail, Slot's on the Rocks, where you've spoken about his relationship with the Liverpool fans.
Yeah, I find this Arne Slot situation absolutely fascinating. I mean, everybody knows that Liverpool aren't having a great season, and that's a huge understatement, given that they are the defending champions. But I still find the way that patience has run out so quickly with Slot in terms of a certain section of the Liverpool support is absolutely extraordinary. Now, people at Liverpool say to me quite rightly that the match-going supporters who go to Anfield are not the same ones who are kind of writing nasty things about Arne Slot on social media. I understand that these days when you talk about football fans, there are two different kind of categories to look at. But even so, I cannot remember a Liverpool manager being spoken about, being lampooned, being dismissed, calls for him to be sacked. I can't remember this happening since Roy Hodgson was at Liverpool in 2010, 2011. The difference between Hodgson and Slot is that Hodgson won about 13 games of his 31 or something, and Slot's just won the league title. So I do think that this guy is deserving of more time to rebuild this squad, to let the players that Liverpool have bought over the summer play together, gel together. And I think he's also deserving of a little bit more respect. And from what I'm told, despite the fact, I went to see him this morning for his morning press conference in Kirkby, and I think despite the fact that he stands there and says that he understands the way it works, he understands the modern world, he understands that everybody's entitled to an opinion, and he understands that he's got to be judged on this year's performance rather than last year's performance, I am also told by people who know Arne that he does feel a little bit disrespected by some of the things that some people, a minority of people, have been saying rather loudly about his efforts so far this season.
Yeah. Understandable. Who would be a manager, though? Oh, my goodness me. We're going to stay with Liverpool because the Eye are carrying quotes from their captain, Virgil van Dijk, who says, "We are not just playing to keep our jobs. There are some players in the team whose contracts run out very soon, Mark, perhaps at the end of the summer." But he believes there's more than that as to why the team needs to keep playing and should be motivated.
Well, yeah, but they've still got a lot to play for, Liverpool. I mean, they finished third in the Champions League phase, so Liverpool could win the Champions League this season. So it's not as daft as it sounds, because, like I said, they finished third. They're not in the playoffs. They've still got a lot to play for. Still in the FA Cup. So yes, they've had a bad season in the Premier League, and they could still end up with a top 4 finish in the Premier League. So, having spent so much money at the start of the season, that's why the pressure is on. That's why there's so much scrutiny on Liverpool right now for failing to deliver. But there have been mitigating circumstances. Obviously, Isak is injured, hasn't been fit since he arrived from Newcastle. Mo Salah went away to the African nations. There are reasons why Liverpool haven't performed as well as they should have done. But obviously, every other club can say they've had injuries as well. So the thing is, Arne Slot, the situation that Lado's talking about there, I do agree in the sense that it does seem to be online fans rather than the fans that go to games that are the most critical of him. But I have spoken to some Liverpool fans who tell me that the reason why they're frustrated with Slot is that the evolution of the team and the way that they're playing football now, it's quite boring in their eyes. It's not the same kind of high energy football that Jurgen Klopp played, and Jurgen Klopp brought a lot of success to Liverpool with. So I think the reason why it's not going too well for Slot is because, one, the results aren't as good as they should be, and secondly, the football isn't as exciting as Liverpool fans have grown accustomed to. So when that's the case, it's difficult. But to talk about sacking a manager who has got Liverpool in still with a chance of 2 trophies and a top 4 finish is just, it's almost like spoilt children behaviour, isn't it? And I think Liverpool fans generally know that he's got a job to do and he's doing it as best he can, and I think he will survive to the summer, and then from that point on we'll wait and see. But he does deserve a bit more respect for what he did last season.
Yeah, and I'm sure he'll be hoping that the fans get behind them at Anfield on Saturday as they take on Newcastle in the Premier League. OK, staying with the eye, on the right-hand sidebar, they talk about transfers as deadline day is fast approaching. Just a couple more days of the January transfer window left. And we're talking Raheem Sterling. He's parted ways with Chelsea, Ian. As we understand it, he's open to moving anywhere. Will he stay in the Premier League? Is that possible?
Well, I think anything's possible when you're a free agent. I think you have to be realistic about what you might wish to earn. Sterling is obviously north of 30 now, and it's a long time since she's played well. There's a time moves on quickly in football. I remember being in Qatar for the World Cup in 2022, and Sterling was an England player. There's all that fuss when he went home because he'd been burgled and how much England were going to miss him. He was an England player at that point. That's only 3.5 years ago, 3 years ago. And here we are. He's had a poor time at Chelsea, but you've got to remember he had that time at Arsenal as well. We thought that the loan to Arsenal might give him the opportunity, get him away from what was clearly a difficult situation at Chelsea, give him a chance to show everybody and remind everybody just what a good player he is. Didn't work. So there'll be people anyone who's considering taking Raheem will be looking at that. They'll be looking at the good years at City and at Liverpool before that, and they'll be looking at his character and his fitness, and there's no problems with any of those. But I do think that spell at Arsenal will just sit at the forefront of a lot of people's minds. So when you talk about wages, I think it's perception and recent memory that will be the biggest problem for him rather than what he might want to earn.
OK, staying with transfers, back page of the Mirror, right-hand sidebar, they're talking Manchester United. United not in rush on Bruno call, as Jeremy Cross reports here. Michael Carrick has revealed United will wait until the summer to resolve the future of captain Bruno Fernandes. We know that this is probably going to be a player in high demand, Mark, if he does choose to leave. And we've seen previously that there was interest from Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about high demand, but that might be the only place where the demand is high, because as good as the player that Bruno Fernandes is, the wages that he earns at Man United can't really be paid by the majority of European clubs, and the ones that could afford it have probably got younger targets in mind. So if Bruno Fernandes wants to leave Man United this summer, I guess he's looking at Saudi Arabia, and he made a point of turning it down last year because it wasn't the right move for his family. So I don't know if that will appeal. So, Bruno Fernandes has been probably the only successful transfer at Man United since Sir Alex Ferguson left, certainly long term, that this season's signs have shown promise. But, what happens next is it's up in the air because we don't know who the manager's going to be, whether it's going to be Michael Carrick or somebody else, and whether that new manager will want him to stay or whether United need to raise the money in the summer to bring other players in. So it would be foolish for United to start talking contracts now for Bruno Fernandes because, he's even under contract anyway. His contract doesn't expire, I think, until another 18 months. So there's no rush. For once, United needs to be patient on this and rather than just make a knee-jerk decision. So let's wait until they decide who the manager is. Then when they know who the manager is, they can decide on Bruno Fernandes.
OK, Mark, Ian, we'll leave it there for just a moment. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll be looking at more of the sports stories in the morning's newspapers, including this in the Mail. Brook, I lied. We'll focus on England's white ball captain, who's admitted he lied about two of his teammates being with him during an incident involving a bouncer on a night out in New Zealand. That was the night before an ODI match. Stay with us. Hello again, you're watching Back Pages tonight. Welcome back to the Daily Mail's football editor Ian Ladyman and ESPN's senior writer Mark Ogden. Let's go straight to the back page of The Express. We're talking cricket. The headline, I lied to protect my teammates. Brook admits regret for initially insisting he was alone in nightclub row. This is the negative ECB story that just will not go away, Ian. I suppose from Brook's point of view, he says he was protecting his teammates. He's taken one for the team, which perhaps endears him to his teammates. But was there perhaps some naivety in thinking that the media wouldn't eventually find out? And more importantly, should there now be further questions about whether he's suitable for the captaincy?
I mean, I'm astonished by this story. I'm absolutely astonished by this story. I mean, it's just stupidity from not just from Brook, but from so many people involved in this story. If you trace it back to when it started, which was at the start of November in New Zealand, Brook's out. He's a captain of the white ball team. He's out the night before a game. By his own admission, in a quote, he says, "I wasn't leathered, but I'd had too many drinks." Okay, so he's had too much to drink. He's playing the next day as the captain. He's out. He gets into bother. There's no transparency. It's covered up. No one's told about it. And of course, as tends to be the way with these things, it eventually emerges, courtesy of some very good journalism from the Telegraph. So it emerges towards the end of the Ashes series, an Ashes series in which Brook has played and played poorly by his standards, played like a chump on many occasions, I have to say. And it becomes known. He apologises, and then he lies. Then he lies about it. Says that he was on his own when he wasn't. Now, you can talk about the motivation for it. Yeah, he's trying to protect two young teammates in Jacob Bethel and Josh Tongue. But the fact is, he's a captain. You can't lie, okay? And if people, and I'd love to know who knew about the lie as well as Harry Brook. Only he know about the lie, or do other people know about the lie? People around him, people at the ECB know about the lie. The fact is that you can't do it. His motivation might be excusable, trying to protect people, but you just can't do it. You cannot do it. Absolutely, there has to be a question about his captaincy, because he's over the line in so many ways and in so many different occasions during the whole of what has become a very, very sorry saga. I was one of the hundreds and thousands of people who are desperately disappointed by what happened in Australia, the way that England played in the Ashes. And now that we know some of the subplots that were rumbling along behind the scenes, is anybody really surprised?
Mark, what's your take on this, particularly the ECB's handling of the situation? There'll be many people out there thinking, well, if this was a football captain, he wouldn't have kept his job, would he?
It's just amateurish by the ECB, and I think I don't quite know where you start with this, but this England cricket team for in recent years has this kind of public schoolboy privilege about it, that they can do things that other people can't do because they're England cricketers, and I think they put themselves in a position of being these big stars. But I think, apart from Ben Stokes and maybe Joe Root, that these cricketers could walk down the street and nobody knew who they are. They benefit from some anonymity generally in the British sporting public. So I think that in many ways that's kind of almost led to this, because they're not recognised in the UK. They're probably accustomed to not being recognised, so they're out in New Zealand. But obviously cricket fans who are on tour will see them there, and they just think they can get away with it. And it's so amateurish. It's so, they had this superiority complex, England cricket team. We saw with that, at the start of the Ashes tour, when they thought, no, we can do it our way. We'll turn up late. We'll not prepare properly. We'll get beat. It doesn't matter because we'll do it our way. We don't need to change. And now it's this, every other major sport, every other major athlete will not touch booze or alcohol when they're competing. A lot won't drink anyway. You go to the England football team, and most don't drink. I read a thing about Declan Rice saying the only time he's ever touched alcohol was just one sip after West Ham had won the Conference League. So these other sports, these other major sports are ultra professional now. And you wouldn't have, let's say Andy Murray was on a tennis tour. Would he go out a couple of nights before because he was bored and because he was feeling that he's got too much pressure and have a few beers? No, he wouldn't. Harry Kane wouldn't do it either. So why should cricketers do it and think it's normal? So I just think cricket needs to kind of drag itself out of the 1980s and put itself where it needs to be. If they want to be competitive and win things and get the respect of the public, act like the other sports are doing, like the footballers are doing, or the tennis players are doing, or the Formula One drivers are doing. These athletes that are ultra professional, and the cricketers are just like on the 3-month stag do. I
understand where you're coming from there, Mark. On the other side of the story, though, cricket is slightly different to football in that they are away for so many months of the year. It's very tough on them, their families, their mental health. And there are times where they feel, Ian, that they just want to unwind. And if that's going out, if that's having a few drinks, that's how they're going to do it. Do you understand it from that perspective?
I absolutely do, and I actually wasn't too upset with what happened in Noosa during the Ashes. They had the break between second and the third test, I think, and they had a few drinks, and we saw the Ben Duckett video, etc. I had a bit of sympathy with that. I don't think you can expect them to be away for 3-4 months without having a couple of nights where they wind down. But you've got to rein it in. You've got to realise that you have a few and then you go to bed at 11 o'clock. You're not still out wandering about at 1 o'clock in the morning, whatever time it was. You're certainly not going to nightclubs the night before a game and getting into a dust up with a bouncer. I mean, Mark's absolutely right when he says that's like something from the 80s, because it absolutely is. That is absolutely from the dark ages. You cannot behave like that. I absolutely understand what you say, Jess, about players being away, needing to unwind. You can't expect them to be in their rooms for 3 months solid. That's just ridiculous. But there's a time and a place, and there's also having a drink and then having too many drinks. It shouldn't be that difficult to work out where that line is.
Yeah, and I should say that we are awaiting a response from the ECB about what will happen going forward. We'll, of course, bring you that as soon as we have it. OK, let's talk tennis now, because, Mark, my goodness me, these two semi-finals at the Australian Open, absolute classics. And Novak Djokovic just seemingly knocking back the years as though he's the prime of his life in his 20s. He's just irrepressible. How is he still playing at the highest level at this age?
Well, I mean, Novak Djokovic is an example of what I was saying in the last section about, athletes that look after themselves and put themselves first to make sure they don't. But I mean, Djokovic is an amazing sportsman. And I think, he probably doesn't get the credit he deserves. I mean, that's ridiculous to say considering everything that he's won and everything that he's done. But because I guess he's not as polished maybe as Federer or Nadal, and obviously Federer and Nadal, that intense rivalry, that great Wimbledon final. But Djokovic has always been the player that everyone loves to hate. But he's there again. He's on the verge of winning the 25th Grand Slam. His head-to-head against Federer and Nadal was better than it was on his favour. So there's nothing you can hold against him. But obviously, he wants to win this 25th title. It's not. I think it's 3 years since he won his last Grand Slam. So this would be an amazing achievement against Alcaraz. But yeah, he deserves all the respect that he doesn't get and more.
And a word on Carlos Alcaraz, who's trying to win a career Grand Slam in his early 20s. Phenomenal athlete.
Well, I was pointing that to, I want you to point that to Lados. I mean, obviously Alcaraz is just a phenomenon, isn't he? But I think if he has the career that Djokovic has had, then he would be delighted, and he's got a long way to go. I mean, he's racking up Grand Slams already, but to get 25 or 24 that Djokovic is on, that's a long way to go. But yeah, he's one of the stars of the tennis right now.
Yeah, cannot wait for that matchup. Mark Ogden, Ian Ladyman, it's been an absolute pleasure to have your company on Back Pages tonight. Thank you very much.